Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Crowded Booth Live. Bryce Kuhn, Ralph Leary, and my man Will Manis is over there on the far corner of the screen. Guys, how you doing? It was an eventful week in sports. We've been lucky because you talk about, especially in our area, the Atlanta Hawks. We're going to talk about that today, but the situation with Major League Baseball, and then obviously with what the College World Series happened, there's been no shortage of news going on to talk about. So, Will, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good. Not at home, which is part of the reason why my lighting is so terrible. And I don't have any way to fix it. But it was a good day. Good day. Got out on the golf course, broke 100 for the first time in a while. So.
There you go. Okay. Ralph, how about yourself?
Just went to work this morning and kind of been lazy all day. Early work mornings on a Monday just never go well. And it was a little humid this morning, so I got home and rested up for the day and ready for a long week of work.
I don't know. You really prepared for tonight's show as well. You left out that key detail. But, yeah, no, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We are excited you're watching on YouTube. I know we got some people watching over there, Facebook and Twitter as well. Would love to talk to you guys because, obviously, the biggest news, we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 4 tomorrow. We had Game 3 last night. We're going to end the back half of the show with that. But the biggest thing, and I think it's safe to say, is the NCAA dropping the ball, no pun intended, with North Carolina State during this entire process. I want to walk through the timeline and then get you guys' opinions on this because I think it's very frustrating, the lack of communication. That's where it sits with me, the lack of communication between the NCAA and North Carolina State with how this worked out. I think it's just safe to say, guys, that, I think if they would have given North Carolina State the option to play that game, it doesn't matter if they would have had 8 available pitchers and 1 position player. They would have fielded 9 guys out there to go out there and play. But obviously, kind of want to go through the timeline. So Monday, obviously, or Sunday when they get there, they have the testing. They have a whole testing. Everyone was great. North Carolina State did identify 2 to 3 players that may have had a bug. That was one of the big things. Flash forward, they win the first game. And this is also North Carolina State team that knocked off Vandy in their very first game. So they were playing ahead the entire time. You get to Friday, and they had some players that tested positive. But then just this whole muddled mess of where it turns out that there were about 6 to 7, maybe 8 guys that, and it says traveling members. So it doesn't necessarily mean players. That could be equipment managers, other type of staff. But some key members of the roster were obviously hurt. They play the game on Friday. North Carolina State had the option to forfeit the game or play it. And I want to ask you guys because, to me, you're going to play the game on Friday. Now, obviously, they end up losing. They're going to play on Saturday. But they get tested at 7:30 that night. That's when all the testing was done at 7:30 Friday night. At 11 p.m., they still have no idea. And mind you, they're playing the very next day. So all the strategy aspects of it, it's hard enough to manage in a College World Series setting, and then you throw in the fact that you don't even know who you're going to be able to have to play. Then you throw in the fact at 1 a.m. they're just told, yep, you're not playing. So I want to get this conversation because it's kind of a conversation as a whole. This is only, unfortunately, a snapshot of where the NCAA falls short. Will, I want to go to you first on this. I mean, what were your immediate reactions of kind of how this entire situation played out?
Probably the same as North Carolina State's, was just shock. 2 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast where we are, it comes out that Vanderbilt advanced with no explanation from the NCAA. But sadly to say, that's what you got, what you come to expect from the NCAA. They seem like they fly by the seat of their pants on everything, and they just kind of kick the can down the road on big issues, and then something like this with COVID, which is hilarious. If you saw Twitter over the weekend. You've already seen this. You know where I'm stealing this from. That they had 30,000 people in the stands with no COVID protocols, no masks, nothing, and then you get a team that has pretty much been in a bubble all year to begin with. They already said they had a bug. They tested negative on Sunday. How come all of a sudden, the end of the week they have COVID? I don't know. Maybe they got it. Maybe they didn't. But it is what it is. That's the NCAA for you.
Yeah, I want to get into some of the comments before we go over to Ralph. Let them play in the Bubble Boy suits. Bubble Boy, man, what a Seinfeld episode. Also, Wendell with it back. I also think it's ridiculous that people are getting mad at Vanderbilt. What do we want them to do? I completely agree.
It's not Vandy's fault.
It's not Vandy's fault. And I think, too, if you put the shoe – if you said, put the shoe on the other foot in the situation, Vandy would be thrown the same way.
Don't put the shoe up to your mouth.
Don't put the shoe in your mouth. There you go. That's number one.
Don't be at the College World Series. Don't put the shoe in your mouth or put your drink in it and drink out of the shoe. That is what. Okay, yeah, we got people drinking out of their own shoes, but we're not worried about that. We're worried about a team with 8 people that are sick.
And I think I got this comment right here from Zach McCandle. Does NC State players hold any accountability for not being vaccinated? I think the best way to put that is, that's a personal decision that they've made based on that, and I don't think that anyone can be held accountable. Now, I think it's understandably and kind of for people who are watching maybe don't understand. NCAA told that the non-vaccinated players had to go get tested. A lot of them tested negative on Friday, but could not get back to TD Ameritrade Park in time for the game to start. So they were not a part of the active roster that's submitted to the umpire part of the lineup card. And listen, I'm not going to fault someone for not wanting to be vaccinated. That's a whole different podcast topic. That there's plenty of podcasts you can go talk about vaccines or not. That's up to each individual discretion. I don't think that they should be punished for that. Wendell, shoeies are the way to go. Do you mean shoeies, or he's just going with shoes? I don't quite know there, but Wendell, no, it's good to have you tuning in. But I think, Ralph, we all echo the same sentiment. I mean, the bottom line, this is just very unfortunate for North Carolina State. You feel for those guys because I said it on a podcast last night. You don't know if you'll ever get back to this. It's so hard to reach the College World Series final. Much less the Final 8 that reached Omaha. So for you, I mean, did you kind of feel the same sentiment that Will and myself did?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you see these kids play all year, and they've dominated all year. And their coaches said it best, we started out slow and just believed in each other, and they ran the tournament in the ACC tournament and then had to go to a tough super regional in Arkansas and won that, which was impressive enough. And, they're here now, and, they beat Vandy game 1, and everyone was shocked like this team could actually do it. And honestly, to me, if they had their full team, I think they beat Vandy again. And I think they're in the College World Series playing Tech or Mississippi State, this weekend or tonight. But just this whole situation was done horribly. I think NCAA really messed up with if they played Friday, they easily could have played Saturday. They wanted to play. They wanted to play. It's not like they sat there and go, well, we have a few guys out who can't play. We're not going to play anymore. But, if you ask Vanderbilt, I'm sure Vanderbilt wanted to play too. People have been hating on Vanderbilt all the time, but, Vanderbilt wants to win just as much as everyone else does. They want to beat the best. Yes. They want to beat the best. So they want to play whoever's in their way, and no matter who they are, who they have. But if you win that game against NC State, and go into the College World Series and win it, everyone looks at you. But since they got the little, forfeit win, everyone kind of looks down like it's their fault, which isn't. Like y'all said, like Wendell said, it's not Vandy's fault. They were basically forced into this situation, which, I understand. It's a free pass, but, I bet they still wanted to play NC State.
I think you're exactly right. And I'll even say this too, guys, we kind of alluded to it, but the point of the NCAA, and let's keep this in mind, was that with 8 positive tests and an impending contact tracing coming, the NCAA's point of view was that it would be impossible for the Wolfpack to finish the tournament. So that's what they were thinking. Yeah. While also caring about the health and safety of participants. But the problem is, and this is something that North Carolina State's athletic department is going to look in and research, they've already said that, the reasoning that reasoning that I just stated is going to be hotly contested because we saw countless send-off and welcoming parties around the city of Omaha. Guys, even the health department of Omaha, Nebraska did not want to get involved in this. And so it's what Will said, what you alluded to. You see that these teams you have 25 to 30,000 fans in the stands packed, and you don't know if they're vaccinated. You have no idea if they're these things. And I'll say
they're
this too.
drinking out of their shoes.
They're
That's
drinking
disgusting.
out. There we go. Wendell's clarification: taking a chug out of a shoe. Well, Wendell has officially taken over the intern position from Russell since he is not tuned in a hot minute, but we do like that.
Wendell, tweet us a video of a shoey. We need to
tweet us a video of Shuey, and we'll get it on the video.
Like your golf shoes, though. I want your golf shoes.
Zach says this right here. Is there an asterisk next to the title? North Carolina State was easily the hottest team in the tournament. I don't know if there's going to be an asterisk, but you are right. North Carolina State was riding high, and I think it's very unfortunate. So, guys, that does set us up for a final with Vandy versus Mississippi State. And I can't think kind of what put a damper on this was the quality in the game that Mississippi State, how they won to advance. That was a fantastic ball game to watch. So walk me through this and let's talk about this. How do you feel about let's move away from North Carolina State? Just a kind of a synopsis. I'll start with you, Ralph, on this. We talked about Vandy. You shouldn't have any bad blood, but now it's going to be this all SEC final. I'm excited to see these two teams match off. Give me your winner of the College World Series and why.
Well, go off what Zach said. I think he was wrong about that one. I think Mississippi State's the hottest team right now. They've been killing it. They had the SEC Player of the Year, and they had the guy right behind them who's just as good. Their whole outfield is dominant. And Will Bednar has been the most lights-out pitcher in the College World Series, besides obviously the big names of Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. But Will Bednar went out against Texas through 6 innings and struck out 15, I think, and that was just insane. Will Bednar is, he shot up in the draft stock for him. Mississippi State is riding high right now. They're facing a team they're very, very familiar with. And this is going to be one of the best World Series we've seen in a while because it's two SEC teams, which everyone says SEC is the most dominant conference in all sports. Here they are again, both teams from the SEC facing off in the championship again. Yeah,
it's going to be a fantastic matchup to watch. Will, who you rolling with in this one? Because Vandy has the pedigree, Mississippi State's got the hot hand, and a couple guys that can seemingly change the ball game with one swing. I mean, does this even go the full 3 games? Or I want 3 full games just for the pure excitement, entertainment standpoint. But how do you feel about this matchup?
I don't know. It's going to be how well Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter throw games 1 and 2, and I'm going with Vandy because I'm a firm believer in good pitching will always shut down good hitting. I don't care how hot you are, and we've seen how good Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter are on the biggest stage in the playoffs every year. And they're going to do it again in Omaha. I'm going with Vandy just because of their pitching.
Yeah, Vandy's pitching has been fantastic all season. And it would also cap into it.
It just takes the pressure off when you only have to score 3 or 4 runs and you can win because those guys are lights out. Even when they're not, 100% on.
Their 100% is normal guys like 70. You know what I mean? I'm sorry.
No,
normal guys is normal guy. There you go. Normal guys is 70%. Is they're like 75%. But no, they're fantastic. And like what you said, pitching is going to win you championships. I think it's going to go 3. I think that they'll somehow sneak out 1. But man, when you talk about the complete season from Vanderbilt and that pitching staff, wow, what a way to bookend what has been a historic year for these guys. They're going to make a lot of money at the next level. And if they bring another one for the Vandy boys, that would be quite the ending. And like we said, this is not Vanderbilt's fault. You cannot fault them for this situation. I think it's safe to say that, it's unfortunate. It really is. The NCAA dropped the ball. And before we go to commercial, we come back and talk a little about the NBA or the Eastern Conference Finals. Guys, where does this rank for you? And I don't want to say, but the NCAA is just continuously just shot themselves in the foot with situations like this. I mean, they tweet out a lot of people, prominent, players, and the pitcher from Virginia, that's the character who's like the closer or the reliever. I don't know. And he has now, since he's done, he's no longer an NCAA athlete. He has made a Twitter account of drafts where he wanted to tweet things that he could not. Now he's tweeting. And so, there's the legislation going on with the NIL. I mean, this is seemingly in the next year or 2, I would feel like, and we'll go back to you real quick, that this is just coming to a head. That at some point, the powerful schools, the powers that be across college athletics, I mean, college football, we've talked about that a little bit, but in your big primetime sports, and we've seen a lot of that this year, even some of the conversations surrounding softball with some of the weird start times and all this kind of stuff, it seemingly is going to come to a head at some point. Wouldn't you believe that?
Yeah, I do. But I think with the Supreme Court becoming involved, I think the NCAA is going to have to take a step back, and I expect them to. With the NIL legislation coming out this week on July 1st, the NCAA is going to have to take a step back. I think it's good for college athletics to have that governing body, but now their powers are getting limited, and I think that's a good thing for the future for all sports.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see some changes. Like you said, the NIL is a big difference. We've almost seen kind of the power slip away, Ralph. We talked a little about that with the NIL and how that affects recruiting purposes. Obviously, for some of these major market programs that are not as talented in their selective sports. But, I mean, it does feel like that the NCAA, Ralph, is going to have to, like Will said, take a step back in order to reevaluate themselves. We've been talking about for years that programs may break away and do their own thing. And I think if nothing changes, NIL is a good start, that we could possibly see that at some point, maybe not in the next 5 to 6 years, but maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Stanford was the first one that came out and said they're not going to let their athletes sign. We're going to see, like you said, we're going to see some programs break away, and that's just going to be bad for the NCAA. The more that happens, the worse it gets. And I think Will said it perfectly. They're not to take a step back and think about what they need to do next and think about how they want to go ahead with this, because it's going to be a long process for the next few years. And July 1st is going to be a huge day. You're going to see a lot of athletes tweeting out about their signing, or they're signing with, who they've been in contact with. I mean, I've been already seeing on Twitter people putting out messages on July 1st. I can sign with whoever I want to. My DMs are open now. You're going to see a lot more of that in the next few days. Next few weeks, next few months, it's going to get worse and worse. I mean, that's not bad. I agree with what Will said. It's very good for these players. But then again, these programs and the NCAA, they're going to look around and be like, we're kind of sitting ducks right now. So you need to make a move soon.
Will, I'm going to put you on the spot here before we head to commercial break. We're talking about some of this thing. What is the Auburn player with the very interesting name that's coming in? Or either came in, not Smoke Monday, but he's got a fantastic nickname.
That was the first one that I was thinking of. Man, you should have put me on the spot. What position does he play?
I can't remember what he plays. That's the problem. Maybe the defensive side of the ball, but also Kool-Aid out at Alabama. I mean, if that guy doesn't get a sponsorship from Kool-Aid, what does he do? He's doing something wrong. I've seen some. Jacoby McClain could possibly go with a Zaxby's thing. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how some of these things roll. Hey, we're going to go to commercial. I'm going to give Will the chance to look that up because I did put him on the spot. When we come back, we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about some of the Eastern Conference Finals as well.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
I might have just put you on the spot. We did have a comment from a good friend, Spencer. Spencer, thanks for tuning in. The coolest, if you're talking about the Dakotas Crawford that's committed to LSU, if he does not get some type of sponsorship from an ice company, or like when Columbus we have Buckeyes, if he doesn't, that would be fantastic. Well, I'll give you a second to find that, and I might have just been completely.
I'm still looking.
I may have just made that up in my head, but we will talk about this.
Auburn could make an all SEC team just on names.
I agree.
On their roster, Auburn has some exciting names.
Oh, it's wild.
The only one that I can think off the top of my head, but I don't think you were thinking of him just because he's got a different name, is a running back coming in, Jarquez Hunter. I don't think that's who you were talking about, but
I may be thinking somebody else. I may be thinking about somebody else. Hey, we're going to talk about the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's safe to say that the Hawks are limping literally into Game 4 on Tuesday night. Guys, we talked about this. Ralph and I did last Wednesday. This is a series where I felt Milwaukee was going to win fairly easily. I thought it could have gone 6. Ralph threw out the Hawks in 7. And after game 1, guys,
I said Hawks in 6.
Ralph said Hawks in 6. And after game 1, man, it just looked like this team. And Will, you weren't with us, but I wanted to say this because we talked about this. It just kind of looked like this team was they're just playing with house money. I mean, it's just finding ways to win. They don't have the most talented team out there, but last night,
as far as game one, before we get on to last night, game one, the Bucks gave that game away. The Bucks had many chances to put the game away down the stretch, and they didn't do it. So, like, you're right. The Hawks have been playing with house money, and hopefully their luck hasn't run out because I don't want the series to end just yet because the Hawks have been playing really good.
Man, I just got my Hawks jersey in the mail today, so I mean, I need them to keep going so I can wear it before the season's over for them. But I'll say this: they're limping literally into Game 4. DeAndre Hunter would have helped a ton in this series if they had him. They get Cam Reddish back, but it's very interesting because he is, he hasn't played in a month or two, and so it's just kind of weird. Bogdanovich. Try to say that. Try to say that 15 times fast. But Bogdanovich is obviously hurt. He got hurt in this Philadelphia series. He is not. They're not really getting anything from him offensively. I got another name for you. Onyeka Okongwu is one that played very well last night. But obviously the star and one of the stars now in the NBA, I think it's safe to say, is Trae Young, who has just kind of captivated the NBA fan base. I think throughout this playoff run. I think it's funny if you watch Inside the NBA on TNT, Charles Barkley, who I know, Will, you and I have talked about this. He gets a lot of flack for being like this, but a lot of the stuff he says is really true. Like he's just flat out truth what he's saying. He said, guys, like this team's been pretty good and they've had this talent. They just haven't been on national television until now. And if you go look, they didn't have a nationally televised game until later on in the season when they went on that run and some shuffling went around with some of the scheduling. So
yeah, well, they weren't very good,
and they weren't good. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So going with Trae Young, obviously the injury last night was, I mean, it's one of the most Georgia sports things ever to happen. He steps on the ref's foot, but it does come back that it's a bone bruise.
That's typical NBA though. That's typical NBA weird. Though. Is it not? Is it not the underdog that has momentum in a playoff series? Something crazy always happens.
And I don't want to. I think I'm not going to say that Atlanta would have won last night.
I don't have my tinfoil hat on hand, but that's the NBA for you.
Conspiracy theorist Will. I would say this. I don't think that Trae. I don't know if the Hawks would have absolutely necessarily won. It's most definite that the run that Giannis and them went on was at the expense of Trae Young not being able to play. I mean, defensively, the backcourt of Lou Williams and when Kevin Huerter had to come into the game to get some rest, Lou Williams and Trae Young is not what you want defensively. And you also added the fact that Young's hobbled. Chris Middleton went unconscious in the fourth quarter. Literally, I mean, it was knocking down shots that it's just one of those moments. So all that to say, Ralph, I'll start with you on this. They're limping into Game 4. Game 3, Nate McMillan says, listen, it's the same story as last series. We won, they blew us out, and they beat us again. I'm sticking with my prediction of Bucks in 6. I think Atlanta can win tomorrow night if Trae Young's healthy. But if Trae Young's not healthy, I mean, this team is still talented. But, man, you don't have that, elite talent on the floor without him there. And I just don't see how this game – I don't see how Atlanta could win another game without Trae Young at the helm.
Oh, I agree. I mean, if Trae's not on the court, he's not playing. The Hawks aren't scoring a lot of points, and you need if he does play and he's not 100%, he can't score as many points as you would like him to. You got to have John Collins, you got to have Kevin Huerter, you got to have Gallinari off the bench, Lou Williams off the bench, step up in these huge roles when they get them and then they get their minutes in. They got to be scoring. They got to be on ready to go, ready to score because they're going to need them to score some points. Because if Trae can't go 100%. Then they're not going to push him to go 100% because they don't want to risk his injury any worse than it already is. I know it's a bone bruise. I know I'm not a doctor. I can't predict whether it gets worse or not, how long he plays for. I know it's not feeling very well right now because I've seen him his interview is not feeling well. It's hurting. And it's frustrating because you don't want him to get hurt right now. He doesn't want to get hurt right now. He's in the furthest he's ever made the playoffs, and the Hawks have made the playoffs in a long time. So he wants to lead this team all the way. He wants to be there. He wants to be the guy who scores a point. He wants to be the front of this team. That's what his job is right now. I think he's taking that helm and run with it. He's been incredible during the playoffs, incredible during the season. He's been incredible since he got to Atlanta. And like I said, there's just not been enough televised games for the Hawks to be able to really see how good this team actually is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Atlanta's been a ton of fun to watch. Will, he's listed as questionable right now. To me, there's no doubt that he's going to make every conceded effort to go out there and play. But how effective can he be? And he even said in his interview today, it's a bone bruise, but the elite speed that we've seen him use to get past defenders is not necessarily there. I mean, we've talked about this roster. Kevin is sometimes known as Kevon Herter due to some of his play on the court, has been very, very good this year. It's hysterical. But this roster, I mean, Gallinari had 18 off the bench. That's been a really good signing for Atlanta, but it's just different when you don't have the threat that Trae Young is fully healthy. So, Will, for you, I mean, if Trae Young does not play, is this series over in 5?
Yeah, I think it is, even if he does play. I mean, even if he was 100%, I think before the series, I predicted Bucks in 5, but I can't remember. I can't remember what I did yesterday, to be honest with you. But the Hawks. You talk about the scoring off the bench. The scoring is not the Hawks' issue; it's defense. And without Trae Young, they can't match what the Bucks do because the Bucks can't score with him. Chris Middleton has to score like 60 if they want to score with the Hawks. When Trae Young, Kevin Herter, they're both on. Gallinari's pouring in 18 off the bench. Lou Williams is hitting threes. I think Trae Young is going to play. I just don't see him sitting out because if he sits out, the Hawks have no chance. But that changes their entire offense. It changes their entire game plan. I mean, he's going to go from, using his speed and driving, getting to the free throw line to being this spot-up shooter for 3. He's not going to be able to drive. You talked about his elite speed is going to be missing. So that's going to change everything for the Hawks. And the Hawks are really just going to be packing in the idea of playing defense and trying to stop the Bucks. They're just going to try to outscore them. So, I don't know what they'll do. They'll probably play a small lineup so they can have another ball handler out there, have Lou Williams out there for a lot more minutes, which if there's anybody on the team that I trust to play big minutes and his role to increase, that's Lou Williams. He's done it many times in many different places. He's been great for the Hawks this year. So, without Trae Young at 100%, the Hawks have, I don't want to say no chance, but they have very little.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. Middleton had 38. Giannis had 33. Bobby Portis had 15 off the bench for this Milwaukee squad. They're deep. They have a lot of talent. The depth is really there for
I saw a tweet today. It said, Bobby Portis looks like the guy in a movie that plays a basketball player.
Exactly.
Because he's got like the undershirt on underneath his jersey and the headband. Yeah, he looks like he shouldn't be out there playing.
When you flip over to Atlanta's line, I want to say this. Milwaukee shot 51.1% from the field for the game, 37.9% from 3. Collins had 13, 8. Trae Young still had 35 points. I mean, he was well on his way to, you felt like, a 40 to maybe even a 50-point game if he doesn't get hurt. You also look Gallinari, like we said, 18 off the bench. Lou Williams had 5 and Kongwu had 4. But listen, I mean, they are definitely beat up, and I think that's the safe to say. But as much as Hawks fans, this is something I said this. The Hawks fans and people in the final score, I don't. What is it about people wanting to get on the Twitter graphic of the final score and just complain? The same fans are doing it for the Braves that are completely uneducated about the game of baseball are doing this, and they just showed up. Like, they're not even fans of the Hawks. Like, they just said, "Oh, this team's doing well." They're doing the same thing. And I also want to say this.
That's me.
This is a hot take. Giannis Antetokounmpo should be hands down the best player in the world. I mean, it's not even close. The fact that he doesn't score necessarily almost every single time he goes down the floor is ridiculous to me. The guy is a massive man. And listen, they show a shot chart. It's all from 10 to 15 feet within. Now, he's occasionally going to pop out and hit a 3. But listen, I mean, the fact that Milwaukee hasn't run away with this series and they didn't win game 1, like you said, is more of a testament to me how Milwaukee is. I don't want to say it's a reason that they were not the number 1 seed in the East. That's just the biggest thing for me. Now, Atlanta's a great story. Let's give them credit. Like you said, Will, in game 1, Milwaukee dropped some opportunities. You still have to be a good team to take advantage of.
That's right.
Atlanta did
that 3-pointer that John Collins made, I don't know how much time was left. If he misses that 3, the Bucks win that game. Exactly. I mean, the momentum that shifts, the points that the Hawks don't get from that, I mean, that's huge. That was a huge bucket. The Hawks took advantage, but again, we can't say they just came back and beat them. The Bucks kind of gave it away. And like you said, the Bucks, they're a good roster, but the reason they weren't the 1 seed is because it's a guard-driven league. And Drew Holiday was great for him, but he's not consistently great. If you want to be great, and it's the same problem with the 76ers. They don't have great guard play. That's Ben Simmons. I got to do something with him at point guard. But it's going to be interesting to see, in the years to come. I know we're getting ahead of myself, but that's the Bucks' problem. If the Bucks have, if they had Dante DiVincenzo playing point guard, they probably sweep the Hawks, honestly, because he's that guard that can score. I mean, it's a guard-driven league. You see how the league is officiated, all the great guards, all the free throws that guards shoot. It's a guard-driven league.
Yeah, it's a guard-driven league. Atlanta has, obviously, when healthy, Bogdanovich was very, very good. I mean, this is a team, too, and like you said, Will, when you look into the future, let's take a quick look at the Eastern Conference. I mean, let's take a look at that.
Are we going to talk about the Hawks' future?
Well,
I had a take today. I don't think Ralph liked it.
I didn't. Yeah. It's okay.
You didn't like it either?
It's okay. Not really, but it's fine. It's okay.
Dude.
It's okay. We'll talk about that next time. We'll talk about it once the season's over.
I think they're the same. They're like the same player. Except the new one can shoot a little better.
It's okay. It's okay. So I'll say that, but I will say this: when you look across the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia, there's obviously question marks there. Brooklyn's going to be Brooklyn. They're still going to be, if they're healthy, they're going to be probably the best team on paper in the NBA. When you also take into account Milwaukee, I think if they don't win the finals this year, they've got some serious questions. All those guys in their prime, Atlanta, those guys haven't even reached their prime yet, and they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And so I know we say this, and people say, "Well, it's so hard to get back," and you're right. Falcons learned it the hard way. Everyone's like, "Oh, they'll be back." The Braves right now, and people are saying they made it one game away. Well, it's a hard thing to make it back. But I think the window for an opportunity right now for Atlanta, and listen, Trae Young, there's going to be guys that I think are going to want to play with him. If Atlanta frees up money, it's going to be interesting to see what they could do. But I think the Hawks have a very bright future. And, man, if whatever happens the rest of this series is definitely going to be easy. So are we all rolling with, Will, you're saying you're saying Bucks in 5. Ralph, are you still we don't know about what are you rolling with? You still rolling with Atlanta? If Trae Young's unhealthy, how are you going to roll with that?
If Trae Young's unhealthy, I'm going Bucks in 6. If he's healthy, Hawks in 7.
Hawks in 7. If he's healthy, Hawks in 7. I like it. I mean, the optimism, man. I love it. I'd love to see Atlanta. I'd love to see an Atlanta Phoenix finals. That would be I think you
look at the future of the NBA. If you see those two things, I think Devin Booker is solidified his spot as the next great. I mean, I'm not calling him the best player ever. I'm not agreeing with he's the next Kobe, and I will never say anything like that. But Devin Booker has turned up a notch the past few months, especially the playoffs. He's taken a step up. Devin Booker is a great player.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a little ahead of yourself, Ralph, because Chris Paul's not going to be there forever with Devin Booker. Chris Paul's been the difference maker.
Yeah, Chris Paul has been a key piece. Kendrick Perkins said this morning that he should have won MVP over Jokic. So there's Kendrick Perkins for you. So it'd be interesting to see. Hey, we will talk about Ralph's or Will's hot take next week on the show if Atlanta season does come to an end. But we will. We will talk to you later. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to catch us once again on Wednesday, same time, same place.